Welcome to the first episode of EngineLabs Tech Talk. In this segment, we're going to talk about news, some behind the scenes look at some projects, some of the most popular articles that are on the website, and just some other behind the scenes stuff that you won't see on the regular website. But first, we need to thank Mahle Motorsport for sponsoring this episode of Tech Talk. The first thing we're going to talk about is some of the hot articles this month. The first one I want to talk about is Ferrari's patent. When I say a patent, I am talking about a crazy, technically V12 patent. Now when I say V12, it's nothing like the V12 you're used to seeing. It is a pair of inline-six engines arranged in a V, not a V, but a V, with the sole purpose of powering electric motors. If you look at the patent, and obviously it's a patent, which means it may not come to pass, but in the patent, there's a lot of really complicated things. It doesn't look super efficient, but what really comes into play if you read all 27 pages of the patent, let me say that again, 27 pages of a patent, you will see 13 references to the sound. Variable sound, controlling the sound, enhancing the sound. That tells me that Ferrari is trying to bring a soul into an electric hybrid vehicle. Whether that's what they're trying to do or not, who knows? Whether it even comes to pass or not, who knows? I gotta be honest, this is one of the few times where I'm not immediately against electrification of a vehicle. If they're gonna go so far as to put two inline-six engines as power generation units to power the electric motors solely for the sound, I gotta say, I'm kinda in on that. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's really interesting. Go ahead and read the patent for yourself, see what you think. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I'm not a patent lawyer, I'm not a patent expert. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Mahle's premium Power Pack Dome 2618 forged pistons use Mahle's proprietary manufacturing equipment to create ultra-flat ring grooves to exacting tolerances. Then, the top ring groove is hard anodized for micro-welding prevention in extreme applications. Not only do they make a piston with a perfect ring groove, but Mahle also manufactures ultra-flat and round piston rings as well. The Power Pack piston kit comes with a premium piston ring package with a 1mm top ring, 1mm second ring, and 2mm oil ring. Additionally, Mahle pistons come standard with a phosphate coating to help prevent micro-welding in the ring grooves and prevent galling in the wrist pin bore. The Grafal anti-friction skirt coating reduces drag, scuffing, friction, cylinder bore wear, and piston noise in operation. Mahle demands perfection, and its piston kits are meticulously designed and engineered to accomplish just that. So the next big article we posted this month was really interesting. This actually all came about on the floor of PRI show when we were building our giveaway engine. We're using gas-ported pistons, which is a very common thing, but we're also using gas-ported rings. Now, that might sound like a hat on a hat to a lot of people. Why would you use gas-ported pistons and gas-ported rings? Gas-ported rings came about to circumvent rules against gas-porting pistons. So if you have one, why would you need the other? Well, we asked that question because a lot of really high-end race engine builders have found that it actually becomes more effective. While you have, in our case, we had lateral gas ports in the pistons, along with the gas-ported piston rings, which are lateral adjacent. Even lateral gas ports can kind of carbon up. Because the ring is constantly rotating, you don't have any one specific hotspot forming. The cool thing is, this was a secret that was played close to the vest by a lot of really high-end engine builders, and we're now kind of just sharing it with everyone. Obviously, it worked well on our project. When we talked to Keith Jones at Total Seal, he told us that they've been doing it hush-hush for quite a while. This is one of those things where, just thinking about it, it may not seem super logical, but it actually works. So we're sharing that with the world. So go ahead and read that article and get caught up on that, because that's just some really cool technology that we get to share. The next popular article I want to talk about is obviously LS5.0. kind of the elephant in the room. The project's been around for 8 years. We've just finally got it on the dyno, but it did everything we wanted it to do. It was a whole lot of fun. It's been one of the best performing articles because we've had people who were invested in it from day one, following along. We took it down to Outlaw Race Engines and they got it on the dyno real quick. They got that first iteration of everything maxed out real quick. And then once we swapped to the new intake, we just kept making more and more and more power until we finally peaked. It was a great experience, and we obviously have more to go. So stay tuned for that, because if you thought that was fun, we have a lot more in store. Now we're gonna get into some quick news. The first subject we want to talk about is a video we came across from the Torque Test channel. They do a lot of, validation and independent testing of things to see if claims are real. This is a little concerning because what they found was they bought $500 worth of spark plugs from various outlets and tested them all and found that 33% of them were fake. To prove that, they actually used their high-speed camera to test the spark between real ones and fake ones, and there's a wild difference. You need to go to Torque Test channel and watch it. It's amazing footage. But yeah, the scary thing is if you're not buying from a trusted retailer, 33% fakes. That's not, I don't want fake spark plugs in my engines. So check that out. That was actually a very interesting and upsetting stat to hear. Now, you might have already heard about the Toyota engine recall for internal engine debris. No, this isn't the recall you've already heard about. This is actually the third recall for the same issue of internal engine debris from the manufacturing process. I want to read this exactly as Toyota read it because I don't want to get involved in any legal trouble. So Toyota says, the engines involved in the new recall were produced using additional controls for removing manufacturing debris. We have found that even after these additional controls, the remaining debris could be sufficient to cause damage to the number one main bearing and lead to this issue. Engines produced after those included in this recall were manufactured with an improved number one main bearing to help resist certain debris that might remain. So that's over 250,000 V6 engines that have been recalled because there's schmutz in the engine after manufacturing that's killing the bearings. Not a good look for Toyota. Toyota's been, from all accounts, very stand-up about fixing and warranting and taking care of everything, but that's a pretty big deal that they have 250,000 engines that have manufacturing debris inside of them and could be a ticking time bomb for customers. So that wraps up the news. So the next segment we want to get into is a weird engine of the month. If you follow us on social media, we do a lot of Weird Engine Wednesday. This is one of my favorite weird engines. It is called the Esso-Cross engine. One note, it's not called the Cross engine because it's an X engine. It's called Cross after one of its designers. It was designed in the 1970s with the goal for increased efficiency. Now, if you remember the 70s, not a great time for mechanical efficiency. So their huge efficiency target goal was 90 horsepower per liter. That's an okay engine these days. Back then, it would have been insanely efficient. The thing that makes it the weirdest is the connecting rods they look more like a dumbbell with a weird crossbar and an eccentric, kind of like a winkle. It's obviously a 4-cylinder engine. It had 4 carbs, 1 at each corner, 4 spark plugs, 1 at each corner. Potentially one of the most interesting things that it had was a rotary vane valve arrangement. Now, this is technically an overhead cam engine if you consider the rotary valve a camshaft, which it kind of is, kind of isn't. But instead of cam lobes, it actually has voids that allow air to pass from the carburetor venturi down into the cylinder. So it metered the flow of air and fuel just like a cam would, but it was also the valve. So it's a really interesting arrangement. So according to reports, it only made about half of the 90 horsepower per liter that it was looking for, and then just quietly faded away. And the last we heard about it was in a mid-1970s Popular Mechanics article, and then it just faded away. Time for something a little bit lighter. One of the fun things we found on the internet recently was from a Facebook page called The Blue Turd. Besides posting updates to his projects, The Blue Turd posts some very funny pictures, and this is obviously one of them. We've seen cut and welded rods to change the lengths. We've seen rods with springs on them, to control piston bounce, but we've never seen a fully adjustable rod before. This is one of those pictures that's just believable enough to sucker a lot of people into thinking it's real. As you can see in the comments where there's a lot of people debating whether it would work or not. You know what? In a low horsepower application, maybe it would work. I mean, bolts are strong. So who knows? Head over to the Blue Turd page and give them a follow. There's a lot of really entertaining stuff that comes from that page. But just wanted to share this with you as a lighter side because I know we started on some Debbie Downer stuff. But yeah, the adjustable rod is, he didn't even post it on April Fool's Day. So yeah, that's one that's gonna get a lot of people. So now let's move on to some project updates. Obviously, what's on everyone's mind, LS5.0. We said we were gonna take another shot at it. We were gonna take a mulligan. It's actually sitting right here next to me. You can't see it, but it's right there. We're gonna be putting a new oil pump on it. We're going to be putting a new camshaft in it, and we're going to be switching to a high ram base and see what that does. No real huge substantive changes, just some minor tweaks because we would like to see that 510 horsepower out of the forward facing lid and then even more out of the dual quad, as you can see them behind me. One thing I'd like to talk about though is that there were a lot of misunderstandings in the comments. The first thing is this wasn't a brand new competition. This is something that happened 10 years ago and I just thought I could do it better. So it's not an official competition. The original LS versus Coyote, it was what it was. They ran it. I just thought I could do better. I didn't think that the LS3 versus a Coyote was all that fair particularly. And I also didn't think that LS3 made enough power. I feel like with that much of a displacement gain, it should have really stomped the Coyote. So that was why LS5.0 came about. Obviously, in 10 years, things have evolved technologically. We have Gen 4 Coyotes now. We have LT series and now back to even the LSs on the Chevrolet side. So yes, there are obviously far more advanced engines, but this is jumping into a 10-year-old competition using 10-year-old technology. It wouldn't be fair to jump in and try to match a Gen 1 Coyote with an LT. And by the same token, it wouldn't be fair to try to pit a Gen 4 Coyote or even a Gen 3 Coyote against an LS, just a small 4.8 truck engine. It wasn't about, a huge latest and greatest competition. It was just about me trying to jump into somebody else's competition because I thought I could do it better. At the end of the day, even with the different intake manifold not quite fitting the rules, we proved a point. We proved that engines that are similar displacement with similar compression can be made to operate in similar power levels at similar RPM. Yes, we needed more intake manifold than the Coyote got. The Coyote also had way better heads than the LS. So this wasn't really like a competition to, this is better than that one. It was more of a science project to show you can make an LS operate in the realm of a Coyote. And we did it for the same budget. Now, obviously, Coyotes cost more. That's a whole argument in and of itself. But it was just a fun, let's see what we can do with the science. I feel like we accomplished that. I'm not satisfied with how much power LS5.0 made, which is why I want to make more, and we're really going to get wild in the next iteration. So that'll be fun. Moving on to other projects, we have a cool update on Retro 5.0 V2. That's coming back. We've got all the parts, everything's moving. If you didn't watch the original Retro 5.0 series, you really should. The premise of it was we basically took the recipes from the early 90s 5.0 movement and we applied them to modern technology with a 5-liter. So the modern parts really made a lot of power. We've come a long way in the past 30 years. So the project actually advanced way faster than we expected, where we maxed out the blower in the third dyno session. We far exceeded the whole historical 500 horsepower limit of the stock block. Didn't break it, but we also were on a dyno, so not really conclusive proof there. But we ended up making 829 horsepower on a stock block with a stock crank, with stock rods. Not bad with a Vortec SI trim. So version 2 of that is even more aftermarket parts. We're gonna add a little bit of displacement, so it's gonna be a 363 cube engine. We're gonna add aftermarket crank and aftermarket rods. We're gonna up the blower size quite a bit, and we're gonna be chasing a pretty big number, but still going back to the roots of the 5.0 movement. And we'll explain that a little bit more as we release more information, but it's going to be a cool project, and if it's anything like the first one, we're gonna make a ton of power real fast. That wraps up the first episode of EngineLabs Tech Talk. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our shows, and make sure to let us know in the comments what you'd like to see, whether it's in Tech Talk or just in general in any of our stuff. And a reminder that a lot of our newsletter subscribers see the news and stories that we've talked about today before anyone else. So if you aren't subscribed to that, go ahead and get subscribed to our newsletter. So until then, I'll catch you in the next one.